thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endures forever. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. Stone rejected by heaviness has become the cornerstone. I will give thanks to you, for you have answered me and have been my Savior. The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. By the Lord has this been done. It is wonderful in our eyes. The stone rejected by heaviness has become the cornerstone. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. We bless you from the house of the Lord. I will give thanks to you, for you have answered me and have been my Savior. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his kindness endures forever. Stone rejected by heaviness has become the cornerstone.
A reading from the first letter of St. John. Beloved, see what love the Father has bestowed on us, that we may be called the children of God. Yet, so we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we shall be has not yet been revealed. We do know that when it is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. The word of the Lord.
Gospel according to John. Jesus said, "I am the good shepherd. A good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. A hired man who is not a shepherd, and whose sheep are not his own, sees a wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away. And the wolf catches and scatters them. This is because he works for pay and has no concern for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine and mine know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I will lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. These also I must lead, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock, one shepherd. This is why the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own. I have power to lay it down, and the power to take it up again. This command I have received from my Father." The Gospel of the Lord.
Because of the gospel passage we just heard, this Sunday is known as Good Shepherd Sunday, and it's also the World Day of Prayer for Vocations, not accidentally, but because of the Good Shepherd, obviously. And so I wanted to tell you a story today about a shepherd and some sheep, because I think the lesson, basically the story I should say, contains the lesson, a very important lesson, which will help us understand the relationship between the shepherd and the sheep, that is the Lord and us, and why it is that we have a shortage of vocations today. It cannot be that God is not calling men to the priesthood, obviously, so it must be that men are not hearing or not answering for whatever reason. I think my story, which is a true story, will explain it. So many moons ago, when I was studying in Rome, I went on retreat one year outside the city to a monastery, and the monastery was situated on the edge of a sheep ranch, a very large sheep ranch. There were hundreds and hundreds of sheep. I didn't know that when I got there, but when I got there and I saw the sheep, I said to myself, I need to study these sheep so that I can better understand the image that the Lord uses of the shepherd and the sheep. I don't have much familiarity with sheep except to see them on Sesame Street or something like that. That's all I know about sheep. So I said to myself, this would be a good opportunity. So I made a plan to go out every morning and every evening to observe the shepherd and his sheep. And this is what I saw. In the morning, when the sun came up, the sheep began to wake up. There were adult sheep and a bunch of children sheep because it was springtime. They just had their lambs. And in the morning they would sort of wake up, the mothers would stand up and the children would begin to nurse, the lambs would begin to nurse. And then the mothers would go about the business of grazing all day long, eating grass, whatever else they could find, leaves off of branches and stuff like that. There wasn't much to eat because there were a whole bunch of sheep and they had pretty much taken care of all the greenery that was around. But this is how they spent their day. The adult sheep basically trying to find something to eat, and the children's sheep playing, just like people, I guess. And then around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, they would take a nap. One of the mother sheep or two would keep an eye on the babies while the other adult sheep took a nap. And about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the shepherd would make his way to the barn. And he would begin the process of setting out hay and grain and salt and water and all the things that sheep need to stay alive. And a couple of the adult sheep would see this happening. They start to move toward the shepherd and the barn. But when the shepherd was ready, he would begin to call out to the sheep. And he would say, "Venite, pecore miei. Venite, pecore miei." Because, of course, the sheep were Italian and they spoke Italian. And so the adult sheep would begin to move toward the shepherd, in fact, with some haste, because they knew that he had their sustenance. However, the children sheep, the lambs, paid no attention whatsoever. They continued playing, as children will do. Now, what I began to see then was that the children, the sheep, the lambs, did not know the voice of the shepherd. It meant nothing to them, nothing whatsoever. It was just more noise in the world. However, what would happen as the adult sheep got to the barn and to the shepherd, they would turn around and start this cacophony of bleating. And every one of the hundreds of children sheep would run to its proper mother. And then the mother would take the child sheep, the lamb, to the shepherd and the barn, and to food. Because, of course, the children sheep didn't eat from the food that the adults ate. They ate from their mother. So what I saw then was that the parents, the adult sheep, had to teach their children the sound of the voice of the shepherd, and the fact that the shepherd would one day provide them with their sustenance. If the parents did not teach the children the voice of the shepherd, the children would never know. Now, I often use this story, this account of my experience, as a homily for First Communion. And I'll ask the children, "Okay, guys, who's the good shepherd?" Of course, they say, "Jesus." "And who are the sheep?" And they say, "We are." "And who are the adult sheep?" Or who are the lambs, I should say? "We are." "Who are the adult sheep?" "Our parents, of course." And what is the food that the shepherd provides? Communion, of course, the Eucharist. So, to our point about vocations today, it seems to me that not only parents have failed in their duty to pass on the voice of the shepherd, so have priests, so have bishops. We have been afraid to be Catholic, to tell the truth, to say to people, that's what we do, and we don't do that. I'm convinced that the reason there's a shortage of vocations today is that bishops, priests, and parents have neither lived nor passed on the truths of the shepherd. So this is our challenge today, to regain, and to relive, to reappropriate what it means to be Catholic. When we do that, we will see young men responding to the vocation of the priesthood. It cannot be that God is not calling. God wants us to have the sacraments. Without priests, we cannot have them. The only reason for a shortage of vocations today is us. We're the problem, and we can fix it.